Yeah, the data is for everyone. I think that the world would be a more harmonious place if we had more widespread data literacy, even if it was just being able to read and understand research. When is the sample size too small for something to be reliable? What does that mean in terms of what it does to confidence intervals? And I think, I just really think that if if we can spread the good word of data literacy, it would benefit everyone.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Engatica interview series. I'm your host, Kimberly, and we're really excited to have you join us today. Today, we have a very special guest with us today. We have the developer advocate at Comet and a data science influencer on the show. Welcome to the show, Kristen Kehrer. It is so nice to have you join us today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Before we dive into our crazy interview with Kristen, the Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world. It is a platform that provides the latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come, be a part of our community where we learn, share, and grow. So let's start with the most interesting topic on your LinkedIn field is the Cool Data Project Show. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, sure. So I absolutely love this show. It's a chance for me to interview practitioners in ML, DL, and AI. And what we focus on is actually how did people do those projects? So tell me about the actual data collection, your methodology and approach. What are the challenges you faced? What are you currently working on? And it's just been an awesome project for me to be able to learn from, but also I'm really hoping to be able to help people who are newer in their careers match the theory that they learn in school with actual practical applications, and how do you really tangibly go about that?
Awesome. So would you like to share one interesting conversation that you had on the show and that really sticks with you?
Oh man, so there's so many, and I ask people who are doing really cool things. So, it's the very first episode we had, this person is building their own assistant. So it is both NLP and computer vision in one, and he can say like, hey, mark the people green, and the people will all of a sudden be green, and mark, the cars in blue. And so now you've got green people and blue cars. I spoke to somebody who is looking to identify fire, right? So we all have smoke detectors in our house, but that's detecting smoke. And so is it just smoke or is it fire? And talking about, how he collected the data to really determine that it's fire. Just so much interesting stuff. It's been awesome running the show.
That is some pretty cool stuff. I'm sure we will link the link to the show in our description so that all of our community can go and really check that out. The next question is something that I'm sure you get pretty often is, what are the 3 most important data science trends that you'd really like to share with our community? Something they might not be aware of yet.
Yeah, so 3 things that I'm really watching that has surprised me recently. We all know that Python is really popular, but I'm always getting asked if I can help somebody's child or whatever that's now taking a biostats course, and historically that has all been R. It's all, if you're coming from the stat side, biostatistics, you've historically all been in R, and I am starting to see, even some of the college programs, which typically lag a bit in terms of keeping up with how the industry is doing, they're now also starting to teach in Python as well. And so, if you are looking to get into data science, as much as I'm personally an R person because I came from the stat side, I've had to learn Python. And you'll want to learn Python as well. I think, the low code, no code movement is really interesting. I see, often people get nervous that maybe their jobs are going to be replaced. And, one thing that I like to say is I was using no code solutions in the 2000s. And so, And it's also been my experience that as we get these new solutions, right, because over time it's been, now we're going to handle tagging on the website and much bigger data with these no code solutions. And it's always just given us an opportunity to work on higher value problems, because now it's getting easier to do some of the things that were very manual. But that's absolutely something that I see also progressing. The whole cycle is going to be low code, no code, at least for most of the cookie cutter type projects that are more easy to, every business has a retention model, right? Like we should be able to do those types of things in low code, and it's going to open us up to work on more interesting problems that are very specific to the business. And I think in 2022, if we're talking about trends, I think everyone right now is talking about stable diffusion. Which, if you're not, familiar with stable diffusion, it's deep learning, and you can type in text. You can say, I want to see a pig flying, and it'll create that image. But everyone's talking about it. And, even in the art community, which you don't often hear the art community talking about artificial intelligence, but there's a lot of interesting discourse around, a lot of art is copyrighted material, how do we deal with that? But, definitely if you're out there and you haven't played yet with like Crayon, you can go there and type in a couple words and get an interesting image back and see what, everyone's talking about right now.
Yes, thank you so much, Kristen. I'm sure the business folks watching this interview really find this helpful. Our next question is about the book, about the mothers of data science. Can you give us a glimpse about this book? What should the community really expect, and why should they read it?
Yeah, so this was a book that I co-authored with Kate Strachnyi, and really it was an opportunity for us to talk to some amazing women in data science. Like Kathy O'Neill gave us an interview for the book, and we were able to ask about things like, a lot of times as a woman, you're invited to speak at a conference, and they will tell you that it was because they needed to improve the diversity of the conference. And so women in data that are speaking or in leadership roles have had a lot of similar experiences. And one of the things that's interesting too, though, is that we published this book in 2020, about 2 months after COVID became a thing. And so a lot of the book does focus on how are you juggling being a mom in data, and the different aspects that go along with trying to manage being a mom and being in a male dominated field in tech. But then the whole world sort of went to, in these type of roles, being able to be remote, which was I think has a huge impact for women, and specifically mothers. And so a lot of what the book was focusing on, and some of the struggles are now, right after we published the book, actually a lot easier, just because the world of work has changed.
Right. Thank you so much. We'll make sure we are going to link the book in the description so it is accessible to everyone watching this interview. Our next question to you is, Kristen, what does company data tell you? What data should you actually need to look at? Can you please throw some light on this?
Yeah, so that is such a broad question, right? Because we have our small startups, and we have our super mature, companies that are doing deep learning. And then we also have our mature companies that, may have data in Excel as their database, right? So there's this whole world. But I think in general, in the last 5 or 10 years, a lot of the things that have been really interesting that we want to focus on, that we didn't have access to before, is like the customer journey, right? We can cookie someone the first time they hit the site. We know the first time they hit the site what were the events that were after that that led to them signing up? What from there got them to buy a product? How long did it take them to get to the point where they were ready to buy the product? How long did it take them to come back, right? What types of things are they doing on the site? And we can look at heat maps of like, where are people clicking? Are they even seeing the information underneath the folds that we have? And so that's something that I feel is really interesting, that I know 10 years ago I wasn't looking at. Personalization is huge, because especially today with Amazon, people are expecting to be able to sign into a website and that website knows who they are. Welcome back, Kristen. And that maybe there's going to be some recommendations that are relevant to me. And for companies that aren't as mature in their data journey as Amazon, right? Like, they have to figure out, how do I give that personalized experience? Because people are expecting it when, and where do I focus? How do I make people feel as though they're not just some stranger coming back when we've actually had a relationship with them? And then, one of the other things that I think about is, of course, like, it's going to be industry specific. We're all going to have retention models. We're all going to be worrying about operations and product data and site data. But then, like, for a lot of different industries, right, there's going to be specific examples. So for somebody, if you're a health insurance company, that offers Medicare, you're probably thinking about your Medicare star rating, right? So they're focused on improving member experiences and increasing engagement in preventative care, how quickly you're responding to customer complaints. All of those things are going to affect their star rating, which is going to affect how much money they get for their program from the government, right? And so, that type of example is, of course, like, that business is going to be spending a ton of time trying to think about, how do we improve member engagement? How can we create a campaign that is going to get people to come in and get their colorectal cancer screenings?
Right.
We're going to be, and we're going to be testing different language. We're going to be testing different methods of getting people to respond, right? Because an older population might respond better to direct mail than they do to text or email, and like, figuring all that out, and how do we improve that, right? So a lot of these are not even necessarily like a specific metric that we're looking at, but we're looking to get a desired action. What can we measure that is going to help us understand if we're making improvement towards that measure that we're trying to improve?
Right. You completely kind of summarize the entire customer journey and how data can actually help you build an effective model around your product. On another end, Kristen, could you please explain to us your computer vision model to detect the school bus?
Yeah, so this is a super interesting project. Actually, the school bus drives by my house, picks up another student, and then comes back to my house and picks up my daughter at the end of the driveway. So I built a computer vision model. I have the camera right here. It's running 24/7 in my house. And when the school bus passes my house in the morning, it's running a YOLO V5 detection model. It detects the bus, sends me a text. And so then I know that I have 6 minutes for my daughter to put on her shoes and get out to the bus. And so it's amazing, because I can be cooking breakfast and I don't have to worry about, did I miss the bus? Is the bus running late today? I have no idea. And also, when the weather is bad, like, I don't have to make my child stand out in the bus, out in the outside waiting for the bus to come. We know about roughly when it's going to come.
Right. So this is such an interesting concept, that, how technology has been so accessible to everyone. So do you think it is really a good thing or a bad thing in a long run?
I think it's an amazing thing. I think anyone that I speak to, I tell them like being able to code just gives you so much freedom. I'm actually working on another project right now for my own medication adherence. So I'm running YOLO V5 on a Raspberry Pi. And so this isn't done yet, but basically I'm going to, when I pick my pills up, it's going to detect that I've taken my pills, and it's going to send me a text so that at 3 p.m. I can, when I'm wondering like, oh yeah, did I take my pills today? I can look and see that I have a record of that. And it's also going to, I'm going to build an app so that it'll contain some other tracking data. But I have the ability to just like buy a 3D printing machine. It was only $189 and, a little computer, and I can like build a product. And that's absolutely wild to me. I can't, it just makes me think about, 30 years ago, if you spoke to somebody, they'd be like, hey, I just remember, I had this friend from another culture, and she said that, they're taught as kids that if you can sew, you won't go hungry. And the idea was that like, if you can sew, you have something to sell, and it's a good skill to have because you can fall back on it. And, and today I really think that that's coding.
Mm-hmm. That is some really interesting perspective and fresh perspective that you brought to the table. Are there any other sound bites you'd leave our audience with?
Yeah. I don't know. I just, just the idea that data is for everyone. I think that the world would be a more harmonious place if we had more widespread data literacy, even if it was just being able to read and understand research. When is the sample size too small for something to be reliable? What does that mean in terms of what it does to confidence intervals? And I think, I just really think that if if we can spread the good word of data literacy, it would benefit everyone.
Yes, that is definitely very true. Thank you so much, Kristen, for joining us today. It was an honor talking to you. And most importantly, it was such a good conversation that we have for all our folks here. So thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
For more content, subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon so you get access to exclusive content coming from thought leaders from around the globe. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you with a new expert soon.